Hello, welcome to Agile Encounters. My name is Paweł Feliński. My guest today is Tony Richards. Welcome back to our webinar. And the topic is how to use the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. During our presentation, we'll cover actually two frameworks. The very first one is old but gold, the Agile Coach Competency Framework, the so-called X-Wing model. Then we'll go into details of the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. And finally, the most important part, we'll tell you how to use it in practice in various contexts. One is how can I use it for my own growth as an Agile coach, for instance. But another one, how can I help grow my people if I am manager, for instance, of agile coaches, of agile roles in general. Let's kick it off. The Agile Coach Competency Framework, also known as the X-Wing model, now you can see it on the picture, and I believe you understand why the X-Wing, where the X-Wing comes from. I met it about 10 years ago. It was my very, very first training session in coaching Agile teams with Lisa Atkins and Michael Spike, both authors of the framework. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. Tony, how long have you been working with this framework in your practice?
Same as you. I think it was 9 years ago up in Edinburgh. I had the privilege of spending some time with Lisa and Michael in the course. And they introduced it as well on the floor in the room. It was brilliant. I can't say enough about it, really.
The model, long story short, tells us, or these days told for the very first time to the Agile coaching community, what are the core competencies that you need to grow. How I remember it, how I always use it is, let's start from the top, so Agile Lean practices. No matter if you're a team level practitioner, if you're an Agile coach, so-called enterprise Agile coach, Agile and Lean practices, this is something you're going to learn till the end of your life. You can only know more and more practices, methods, framework, especially when more and more new practices appear from time to time. Then on the right-hand side, two core competencies that are important to work with the process. You're not an expert here. This is not your stance. You guide people through a process, either as a coach, one-on-one coach, one-on-many coach, or as a facilitator. And on the right-hand side, you own some expertise over here, either mentor, sharing your experience with others, or instructor, teacher, maybe not a trainer that is fully qualified to design training sessions, but why not? But very often a person who can explain how to use, let's say, Kanban to your new team member. There's something interesting at the bottom of the chart with 3 paths. Tony, which one is yours?
So mine is technical mastery. That's my background. It came from the software world originally. And I gradually moved across to business. But yeah, I often see that as your route into this. Is mine was technical. Other people come from either a business or rarely, but sometimes someone might come from an organizational design background. They're coming through the transformation mastery. So yeah, how about you, Paweł?
As I was told, as I remember from these days, you can learn teaching, mentoring, professional coaching, facilitating. Your mastery, technical business transformation one is your background, what you did previously before you became an Agile coach. So mine was 50-50, I think, these days, technical and business. Nowadays, I would say business transformation. Sorry, I haven't touched the code for 15 years or so. But the bottom line is, if you have a background in technology, perhaps as an Agile coach, you will be able to work more effectively in comparison to other coaches with technical people, programmers, coders, for instance. You understand their language. If your experiences in business, perhaps you will be more effective in comparison to other coaches, working with stakeholders, product owners, product managers, Agile product managers. And if you are keen in transformation, you will be very, very effective on enterprise level, organizational change level, these things. That's the framework I've been using for over 10 years. Very effective, very successful to help me support Scrum Masters, for instance, on their path to becoming better and better. However, I know from a discussion with you, Tony, a while ago that something was missing here, something that few professionals of Agile coaching at different levels, different countries, they find out could be useful, but it's not here in the model. What could it be?
Well, one of the things I heard quite a lot was Agile coaches practicing was saying that often I have to take a stance of a consultant. And there's these 4 stances: mentoring, coaching, teaching, facilitating. They don't really describe what I do when I'm with an organization. So one of the big criticisms, if there were any criticisms, was what about when I'm advising? Now, personally, if you read into those 4 different discipline areas, whether it's the process-centric ones or the content-centric ones, you can start to see between the lines some kind of advice, but it's not explicit. So that I often heard as I can't really represent what I do with clients or what I do with my organization because it fits more into that advisory role.
That's exactly my experience as well, and that's how the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel appeared. I found out this year that I often explained to my customers, this is a new tool, but when you look into the details, actually not so new. I think the very first ideas arrived 5 years ago or so. Let me show the picture of what the wheel is about. So this is the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. Tony, I know that recently you met a few of the authors of this technique. What can you tell about the history of the wheel? What have you heard from them?
Okay, so the history of this, short-term history of it, is around 2018, there was a coaching retreat held in London, and there was a group of coaches who are listed at the bottom of the image there, and they all started to tackle the question of how do you start to professionalize the idea of an agile coach. It was twofold. One was for their own personal development growth. The other side was from organizations that were becoming critical of people arriving, reporting to be an agile coach, and then unable to provide some of the things you can see on this wheel. So it's trying to sort of address 2 of those things. I am conscious that I noticed that Rohit, one of the listed authors, had accepted the invite to this session. So Rohit, if you are on this call, I hope I'm doing you justice, and please put in the comments if you feel there's anything I've said that isn't in line with your origins. But from 2018, that was the draft of this. It didn't look like this originally. And then Bob Galen, another great coach worth sort of following or looking up if you've not come across him before, he ran an open space with the Scrum Alliance around 2020, 2021, on the similar kind of topic about professionalizing the discipline of agile coaching. That created a lot of talk, a lot of work that then further introduced ideas into this coaching wheel. So it's been an evolution, but as you say, Paweł, it's only been 5 years really in its evolution, and it's come a long way in that time. If you look at the old version compared to now, some massive strides have been taken. But some great thought and a very diverse group originally came up with the idea. So I always respect the fact that it wasn't like-minded individuals in that coaching retreat. There were some very different opinions in that room.
I think that the biggest step, huge leap forward, brought by the old X-Wing model was to bring coaching as a stance to become the primary one. Right now, we are not talking about agile mentors, agile facilitators. We name the job agile coaching, although we know other competences, not only professional coaching, are embedded here. What I love about the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel is the current version, I think it's 3.2, so there are many iterations, and it was the collaborative work, not to do something better or in contrary to the original model by Lisa Michael Spide, but to evolve it, and that's great. Let's take a look at the details of the wheel, because I think we need to explain step by step what it is about. So in here, in the very central part of the wheel, you see self-mastery. Together with all eight areas on the white background, these are 9 core competency areas. So coaching, facilitating, guiding learning, advising, leading, transforming, being agile practitioner, and self-mastery are areas, competency areas. Light blue backgrounds suggest competencies within these areas. So, for instance, on the right-hand side, within the area of coaching, 2 major competencies are coaching mindset and coaching skills. What you can't see over here is a huge PDF of about over 80 pages right now that explains in details each of the areas, each of the competences within areas, and lists skills within the areas. We'll touch this topic slightly later, but what is important is what we have over here. Now, there is something on the outer side of the wheel. This is domain knowledge. What could it be? Tony?
Yeah, so the domain knowledge, I think of it as like the tread of the tire, whether it's a bike wheel or a car wheel around the outside. And it's deliberately not as bold and thick as the others. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's sort of a combination of the domain. You remember we talked about in the X-Wing model, the area of mastery that you come from. The domain knowledge is the area of domain that you understand best. So it could be a profession like marketing or HR or something like that, or it might be an industry, or it might be technical, or it might be mastery. But the reason it's not very, very big and very bold is because there was a belief that the bolder that became, potential risk to you as an agile coach is you become more and more subjective in certain situations. So one of the things I like about the domain knowledge is it honors the fact that you do come with other skills and other knowledge beyond agile coaching, but that isn't going to undermine your coaching interventions when you're working with a team, and you're still able to exercise a degree of objectivity, because after all, it is all subjective. We are a person, but a degree of objectivity in many situations. So the domain knowledge is, I think of it as like a thin thread around there that respects where you came from and what you bring to the coaching.
I find this layer, thin layer, outer layer, as a layer setting context to your activities, your competences as an agile coach, and to me, the domain knowledge is, I do agree with you, it's your experience, your paths you've taken previously. In the X-Wing model, that would be the mastery, the transformation business, or technical mastery. But I think it's also what is required from you. If you, as an agile coach, you operate in the, let's say, industry, in the insurance industry, for instance, you need to, in order to provide competent services, you need to have a little bit, at least, of a knowledge of this business, these teams, these organizations. So, so for me, it's both what is required, but also what is your background. All right, self-mastery. I think whenever I explain this model to those who haven't seen it, the majority of the questions goes to what is in the bullseye. Tony, I wonder what your thoughts about the self-mastery are. That's something that I can't really relate if I compare to other models that I've seen, not only the X-Wing one.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little discussion about this in the past, actually, and there's I don't know if you call it a metaphor or a kind of an analogy or a vision that I use quite often. And it's this idea that when you're on a plane, they talk at the start, the stewards, about safety. And they say, when the air masks drop from the top of the plane, make sure you put yours on before you put others on. So make sure you take your oxygen first before you help others, for very good reason. Self-mastery, I think of as similar. It's you, me, Paweł. It's about us working on ourselves. And what I mean by that is growing awareness of how we respond to certain situations, how our emotions show up. And then as you go through the different levels of self-mastery, it's working out, well, how do you want to use those emotions and the way those things show up in you personally? So it's developing a better understanding of you and how you behave in certain situations. And then in some situations, using those kind of behaviors to your advantage. In other times, it might be, well, how are you going to catch certain behaviors? Because you can't stop your emotions, but how you act on them, you can have a choice in. So I think of self-mastery is developing more of an awareness of you and how you respond in certain situations. I don't know about you, Paweł. Have you come across anything similar in other domains or other situations?
I came across something totally different recently. One of the trainings during one of the training sessions I had, we didn't talk about the wheel, but I showed it because it supported other phases of mine. And she said, "Oh, self-mastery. So it's like a well-being, achieving balance, and so on. This is because of Generation Z. It's a matter of fashion." I thought, I don't know. I didn't speak with the authors, but I think not really. If you forget about agile coaching profession at all, and you focus, for instance, just at the coaching, professional coaching, or just at facilitation in many proper facilitation or coaching schools, and they're gonna teach you that. It's not only skills, practices you apply to work with others, but also exactly what you said, the self-awareness. I can get as many information, for instance, facilitating group meeting from the group, from their behaviors, as much from focusing on myself. If there was a situation in the team and I reacted internally with an emotion, what the emotion tells me about me, why did I react like that? You can get a lot of interesting information, just being aware of your emotions, your point of view. So that's how I do explain self-mastery. I don't know if it makes sense.
That's a great example, and the facilitation is a key one because the way you are feeling or the way you show up in a facilitation session can sometimes have a dramatic effect on how everyone else feels because we all respond to each other as human beings. So that's a great example of where your self-mastery can have a positive or negative effect on that session just through things that you sometimes don't pay attention to. So the more you pay attention to how you react in situations, the better you're going to be at preparing yourself for these things.
All right. I think it's about time to take a look at all the other core competency areas. So these that are here on the wheel on the white background. I'm happy to start with a few words of explanation. So Agile in practitioner, heart of the wheel, both models actually. As you can see at the very top of the wheel, it's about the mindset. You will see it in a couple of places: mindset and practices. Agile in mindset, so understanding, believing in values of Agile, principles from the manifesto, values from other frameworks, and also understanding the frameworks, knowing the frameworks, practices, experimenting with them. Later, when you're going to talk about different levels of skills that this model proposes, perhaps we'll tell a few more words. Serving, what would it be about to me?
So serving is it's one of the more difficult ones, I'd say, to describe, and also it really wasn't directly visible in the X-Wing, so it's quite a new way of seeing things. But a lot of it is around the role modeling. That's one aspect of it that you bring into the way that you work with an organization or with a team. So it's talking about this idea initially of the Robert Greenleaf papers in the 70s around becoming a servant leader. It takes that idea and then it breaks it right down into, well, how do you role model that kind of thing? So it becomes more commonplace in the organization or the team that you're working with. That's my understanding of the serving. I don't know if you've seen anything else that I may have missed.
Actually, one bit before adding serving to the wheel. In my opinion, making it one of equal core competency areas. Many people thought competencies are these places where we need to focus on knowledge and skills only. And of course, everybody heard you want to be the servant leader, but nobody think that there are competences behind it. So to be a servant leader, to provide services, not just a stance, attitude, I love you all, I'm going to fix your problems. No. There are certain skills behind that that could be learned, could be taught, could be learned. And if you can't find, if you don't find this area strong as a strong one, and definitely was something you could grow in. How about coaching? You're a professional certified coach, so I'm leaving this bit to you, Tony. I'm going to take facilitation shortly.
Well, confession moment, when I first met the X-Wing diagram, I was not a professional coach. And when I used the X-Wing, I had to really kind of be honest with myself about where I was starting. And this domain has remained in this model and the previous one. And it, like the Agile segment, it splits out the mindset, the things that you can't see, the things going on inside on the interior, from the coaching skills that you maybe see on the outside, the exterior. So it's trying to look at how do you firstly work in a coaching stance, primarily with individuals. So how do you use coaching techniques and coaching methods with individuals? But then it also talks about how would you coach a team, because that's not as simple as just coaching lots of individuals. You're coaching the relationship between all those individuals. So it's a very different style of coaching. So there's almost two strands inside here, whether you're dealing with an individual or a group of people, whether it be a team or something larger. And I do often see this as the stuff that's going on inside and the stuff that you can see outside. So the mindset and the skills. And as you've already said, Paweł, that appears in few of these slices. They've separated those two things, because one of them, you have to be honest with yourself. No one else can tell you where you're on that mindset journey. You might give away clues, but they will never know for sure what's going on inside your head. How about you with your experience of coaching? Because you've been very humble, but I know you have some experience yourself.
Very often I say, and it's not about the coaching stance, it's about facilitation or getting learning as well, that in order to be an effective agile coach, you don't need to be a certified coach or certified facilitator, certified trainer, a person who is really a master in the profession. What you need are certain skills from that particular domain that will help you grow. Of course, it depends on how advanced you are as an agile coach, who you work with. I believe that at some level, professional coaching is what you need anyway. But it's not that if the skill is missing, you are a terrible scrum master, you're a terrible agile coach at all. This is the first thought of mine. The second one. What is very interesting, over 10 years ago, when the framework of competencies, Agile Coach competency framework, was introduced by Lisa Atkins and by Michael Spide, they named this domain professional coaching, in order to emphasize that we have agile coaching, and within agile coaching, only one of many skill sets is the professional coaching. I'm so happy that nowadays we call it just coaching, how it should be, because I think the majority of agile professionals, practitioners right now, they understand agile coaching is an umbrella where many skills, including the coaching, could be found. All right.
Sorry, Paweł, I was just going to add one more thing, actually, that I hadn't thought about in there. Is one thing this segment does bring in is the idea of ethics. And if you've done any professional coaching, one of the key things when you become a professional coach is you have to do a lot of work on ethics, so understanding how you would behave or act in certain dilemmas, because life is not clean and tidy and linear, it's messy. So knowing how you're going to deal with certain ethical dilemmas is very, very important. And you're not always going to get it right either, but it's how you deal with it in an ethical way if it doesn't go right. Now, why I say that is I know that the Agile coaching community has been doing a lot of work as well, alongside this, on an Agile coaching ethics initiative. And I would really strongly recommend anyone, whether you're practicing or whether you're new to Agile coaching, get a copy of that and just familiarize yourself with it, because there's a lot in there that will give you clues to what you need working the rest of this wheel to help you with your ethics in certain dilemmas. So I think that's one thing this slice brings to you, is that idea of your ethical behavior as an Agile coach and working with organizations.
I'm totally with you. I think the ethos of ethics would be visible in a couple of other places. mainly. However, coaching is where it originates from, definitely, because that relationship originally in the professional coaching was unique and very intimate with the person you coach. All right. Facilitating. As I said, you don't need to be certified facilitator over here, but the skills, the competences required over here are both mindset, facilitation mindset, and facilitation skills. Skills could be taught, could be practiced. Mindset is something that you can get a lot of that while practicing. I think the most important part, similar to coaching, but at a different scale. As a facilitator, you believe in the group. You believe they will work out the solution. You're a person that, even if competent in the subject matter, you step aside. You're not advising here. You're not a consultant, but you guide the group through the process of making a decision. Whatever the process could be. It could be planning a sprint. You will not plan a sprint for them. You help them plan the sprint. You know what the goal of the meeting is, what are the boundaries. You know what are the objectives. You help them achieve that, but you are not planning for them. But it could be a facilitation of a conflict, for instance. Again, you are not saying you're right, you're wrong, shake your hands, go back to work. Instead of that, you know the process of solving a conflict, navigating a group for a conflict, and you help them overcome it, successfully or not. Sometimes you could have done your best as a facilitator, and still the outcome is not there. But that's the other conversation. Guiding learning, including teaching and mentoring from the X-Wing model. Why do you think, Tony, these two, together with a so-called learning mindset, were blended together, merged together?
I believe, and I couldn't tell you if this is what happened in the room in 2018, but I believe they were brought together because in the X-Wing, there used to be an annotation on each side. On one side, the right in the image that you had, was the process side. So coaching and facilitation were both seen as process centric. You didn't have to have big content knowledge. You process, but this one, mentoring and teaching on the left-hand side of the X-Wing, was the content where you knew something about it. So if you're going to teach someone, then often it entails that you have some knowledge of the area, so you're able to teach it. Or if you're mentoring someone, you have some experience in the past. So that's why I believe they've been brought together. I don't know if you've seen anything different that would suggest there was another reason, Paweł.
No, not really. Very often people who are mentors but to teach a little bit. It's not only sharing my thoughts, my experience, but actually transferring competences, and vice versa. What I love about the words, still looking at the wheel, is the name of the entire area is guiding learning. It's not me teaching you, it's me helping you learn. It's you learning. So the subject and the object are reversed over here. Very important part. And again, I believe you don't have to be certified fully professional trainer to be an effective agile coach. However, picking up a few ideas how to transfer knowledge to your team, to your peers, stakeholders is very important. One of the most powerful exercises that I had during one of training sessions years ago, now when I was a very junior Scrum Master, it was very simple. In pairs, you have literally 10 minutes, not a single second more. You need to explain using a whiteboard and a marker to your fellow partner in the pair what is Scrum. That's it. So the competence of explaining a pretty sophisticated concept with a lot of artifacts, events, and roles these days, and so on, in just 10 minutes to show the entire big picture, right? Everything, but not to go too much into details. Only within 10 minutes, with some pictures or bullet points, powerful. And now it's something we do like that these days. Very effective training exercise. Nowadays, when I teach very junior Scrum Masters what Scrum is about, this is one of my favorite activities during a training session.
And it's just to build on that, there's also the learning mindset in there. I think it's quite a useful addition in here, because it's talking about you and saying, are you a curious learner yourself? Because if you're not a curious learner, how can you expect other people to be curious about learning? So again, it's about the role modeling, and how that would show up in the training, obviously, is more apparent, because as you learn more, you're able to teach others based on what you've learned and what you've practiced in organizations. On the mentoring side, there was a coach I worked with very early in my career called Georgie Hopkinson, and we had a session once where I talked about how I believe, and it's just a personal belief, you can learn from everyone. It's just how open you are to learn from them. So the learning mindset for me there was, even in that mentoring relationship with Georgie, I was learning loads from her, even though that wasn't the original intent. And I think it's this just general curiosity to learn from every source you possibly can, turns you into a great guiding leader, would be the way I would summarize it.
Jeremy, moving on the wheel, I wonder what's the difference between advising and consulting, and why it's advising, not consulting, here on the picture?
Yeah, it's a really good question why they chose the word advising. I think it was more because the word sort of describes the action you're going through. So you could be a consultant advising, but you could be in another capacity, whereas consultants seem to evoke a very specific image in one's mind. And this segment, if you go into it, talks a lot about becoming a trusted advisor. So the trusted advisor can show up in many ways. And I think they were trying to be careful not to create too many labels and keep these things almost active verbs in this sense. So advising in this sense is that you are just a trusted party, whether you call yourself a consultant, a coach, whatever it is, you're trusted. Because as we know in Agile coaching, there's an agenda. It's not completely neutral. There is an agenda. So it's being trusted that you're using that in a responsible way. I don't know, what were your thoughts when you saw the word advising for the first time?
Slightly similar, but also a little bit different. When I read advising, there is still a bit with you. It's not the job is only mine, like with consultant who solves a problem for you. I have the knowledge, I advise you, I tell you what my solutions would be. Maybe I even implement the solution, but with you. So there's some effort of my customer that is required. If I hear the word consulting, in my opinion, it's you give me the problem statement, I solve it for you. And next time, if you have the same problem, I have no clue how to solve it, because the entire solution was with me. There was no transfer of thoughts, competences, skills. So it's not a soft way of influencing people as coaching or facilitation. And still, there's some effort with the customer. That's how I read it. While the trust is absolutely key factor, as you mentioned.
And I suppose thinking about what you just said there, it helps you remain out of that expert trap where you become
definitely
just all assumed expert, where no one can be an expert in everything. So it allows the space for your growth as well.
Definitely. There's something on the left-hand side named leading. I'm very happy it's here on the wheel. A few years ago already, when the latest update to the Scrum Guide was made, it was written down that accountability, as we call it right now, the Scrum Master, the specific bullet point saying the Scrum Master is a true leader. So being a leader, leading is key. If it's here on the wheel of competences? Definitely, there are some skills you can learn. What would be the skills, Tony?
So I suppose in this sense, the leading has been put in because they're trying to encourage the fact that sometimes for change to happen in an organization, you need to have a voice behind the change. You need to have some form of, the word that Esther Darby uses is attractor. So you need something that's the attractor. So a vision, a leader in this sense would be a great storyteller of a vision, or as it says, visionary there. The role modeling again is living and breathing all the very things you're saying. So everything you're talking about when you're explaining or telling your story, you act and behave completely in congruence with it. So if you're not incongruent, if you're incongruent, in other words, why should anyone follow you? Why should anyone come with you? Because you don't appear to act in concert with your words. The other thing, I suppose, at the bottom, that leading for growth, is really, I think, when I read it the first time, I couldn't quite get my head around it. And the more I read about it, I think about it as, well, you can't forget that you're doing this all in service of something. Because this is where the leading and the serving somehow connect for me on this model, whether it was deliberate or not. But you've come into an organization, they have some goals, they have some commercial needs if they're a commercial organization. So you need to work out, well, how's the organization growing towards that? It's not just growth for the sake of growth in an individual. It's growth because there's an organization or a business behind it that are looking to achieve something. Whether it's a big outcome or something else. So I see it as those kind of three layers. Can you tell a story? Can you act in a way that's consistent with that story? And is all of this stuff building up to something bigger than any individual? So something an organization can stand behind. How about yourself? What were your thoughts?
Exactly the same ones. Plus, on top of that, I think being a leader means also to lead with example. If I'm teaching Kanban, let me also show how I use Kanban. If I am part of a transformation team in the organization, very popular way of managing the organizational change, why shouldn't we also use our frameworks or practices in appropriate way, of course. So being a role model, that definitely is important here. I'm really happy in a similar way to serving, that both serving and leading here are lifted to the level of independent competency areas, because I think both leading and serving used to be forgotten by many agile practitioners. If you always step back and you assume agile coaching is just giving space for people to organize, you're gonna fail, because sometimes people don't know how to organize. Maybe in the finite time they would organize, but we don't have infinity of time. We need some results where becoming a leader, true leader, is important. Finally, transforming sounds pretty obvious to competencies within the area organizational change. So I believe skills related to changing the organization's models of organizational change, systemic coaching, and so on, and organizational design. Which is interesting because I hope nobody thinks an agile coach is the one who designs the organization for the customer. What are your thoughts about this this area, Tony?
So my understanding of this, and one of the reasons I saw it come into this model, was that the world of agile coaching was starting to blur quite significantly into the fields of organizational design and organizational change. So a lot of this was around, well, how do you, rather than there being competition here, why don't you embrace it? So we've got a whole set of things that agile coaching brings to the world that allows people-powered change to take place. How can you bring that into the worlds of, or the domains of organizational design and change? The difference, I think, with this slice, and it's more around the word where it says transforming, the core competency, is it's trying to get across the point. It's not going, this is my start point and this is what I'm going to change to. It's about creating organizations that are naturally adaptable, so that they start on a journey of being able to change and adapt given the circumstances, and they continue doing that forever. Whereas traditionally, a lot of, personally, I've been exposed to organizational change and design, which has been current state, end state, move from one to the other and stop. I think this competency is talking about how do you create that as just a habit, a practice within an organization, so it can constantly adapt to the new emerging states that are happening outside of it.
I'm totally with you. I think it's about time to move on. As I said, this is just a wheel diagram, but it's a long PDF of over 80 pages with details. One of the important parts of the model is what you can see right now on the slide. So the 5 levels of skills. This is the model that these levels, 5 growth levels, are based on the popular Dreyfus model of skill acquisition. And starting from the lowest level, we have a level of a beginner. It's a person who has just a textbook knowledge, no practical experience really. We have an advanced beginner that is, well, as the name suggests, advanced beginner, has some practical experience. If we are talking about retrospective and facilitation, I did facilitate it 1 or 2 times, maybe 10 times even. If you give me a new team, I will also be able to facilitate the retrospective in the same or similar way. A practitioner is more skilled level. It's where you can demonstrate working knowledge of all the aspects of the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. You are, in my opinion, independent to continue on your own. You are moved from this team to another, from one organization to another. You will find out how to live and work over there. The guide is a person who has in-depth knowledge and experience. So it's a person who can very, very fast analyze the situation and synthesize different solutions. Okay, in here maybe facilitation, but based on what I can see, I'm going to use the coaching stance, for instance. And finally, the catalyst expert is a person who has a very, very deep understanding, not only knowledge, not only experience, but also understanding of why behind, and the person that perhaps is able to even break some rules, modify, create novel approaches, and they work. It's a person operating on the mindset level. Now, these 5 levels are introduced in this framework. You can apply them to all the competencies on the wheel, not only competency areas, but competencies on the wheel. We have definitely no time. As I said, it's 80 pages or so to go into the details. But for instance, you take the competency area of coaching, you take a look at the competence named coaching skills, and as a beginner, you need to, and there's a list of bullet points, which skills on which level should be demonstrated by you if you want to consider yourself a beginner. At the level of practitioner, still same coaching skills and competency. These are the very specific skills you need to be aware of, and the level of experience, and so on and so on. So it's very, very detailed, and because of that, I see a lot of potential applications of the wheel, which leads us to the last topic that we have for today. So how we should use this tool in practice. Joey, direct question to you. How did you use this framework in the past?
So I've used it personally. I've since the X-Wing, which I originally used to shade in with a piece of paper and a pen and color in where I was in the terms of the scale and try and find evidence to support that. The coaching wheel I also use. One of the things they recommend with the coaching wheel is to find someone else, a peer, that you can make your first judgment of where you believe you are in your journey, and then get someone else to look at it and see if they recognize that in you. Because there's often things they can see where they'll go, actually, I think you demonstrate things that look a little bit more like, say, for example, a practitioner, and you've said you're an advanced beginner. So it's useful sometimes to get another opinion as you go through it. But yeah, I've used it on a personal level and then also in mentoring others. So we use it as a starting point to identify where are the areas they'd like to focus. And then it allows me to contract with them around, well, what do you want to do next? Where do you want to grow next? and how am I going to support you in that, or who do we need to find to support you in that? So that's my experience. How about yourself, Paweł?
Quite similar. So the very first application I thought of is to help people assess themselves. First of all, you need to be introduced to the model. Okay, these are the areas, these are the competences. Maybe you were not aware of all of them. Maybe, for instance, you never thought that advising is also part of your job, could be part of your skill set. And then let's assess where I am on the path. That would be one independent from other areas. Another one, if you know where you are, you can think where you want to be. You personally, or you in a relationship, like mentoring relationship with your peer or somebody in your team. What is the required level of a skill or the area in your current context, in your current profession? In that case, I perhaps wouldn't even use the growth wheel only for agile coaches. Please mind it maybe it doesn't matter, but the name of the model is Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, not Agile Coaches Growth Wheel. If I look at the very original model, the X-Wing model, the name was Agile Coach Competency Framework. We are focusing on agile roles. And here it's agile coaching. I can imagine you are representing an agile role, but not an agile coach. Let's say a product owner, and you still find the wheel useful. Maybe as a product owner, you don't need to demonstrate all these skills, but maybe you'd like to. As a manager organization or head of a department or a program within an organization, digital transformation, that might be an interesting tool for you as well. All right, let's take a look at a few examples how it could be used in practice. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. This is the first time I'm doing it using the webinar, but here
you've got it.
Here we go. If you go into your browser and type agilecoachinggrowthwheel.org, you will land on a page where everything and even more, everything that we said and even more is listed. You see the framework, you see extra notes, the explanation why it was created, details about the competency areas, and so on. I'd like to focus your attention to the community, so people behind the wall. If we open any sub page of people from the community, let's take a look at Mark Summers. You would see that next to a picture of the person, there's a spider web diagram. This is literally how you can use the tool in practice. As you can see, we are not focusing here on areas, but independent competencies. So, for instance, in the area of coaching, we have coaching mindset, coaching skills. On a scale from 1 to 5, you can assess yourself using marker or a pen on a white on a piece of paper, or using a sophisticated tool like a spreadsheet, and you can plot such a diagram that tells you immediately what are your strong areas, which areas are those that perhaps you would like to work on a little bit more. So very effective if you want to do it on your own, if you want to do it with your team as well. And also on the website of the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, in the resources section, you can find a mural template. If you open it, you have a ready tool that you can use either individually or with your team, because there are many frames prepared over here. Each frame, as you can see, consists of the areas, competency areas, 8 of them. Self-mastery somehow skipped over here. You can take a look at the individual competencies, and again, you can assess yourself on a scale from 1 to 5 using exactly same definitions of the growth levels, from the beginner to catalyst, and based on this, you can assess where you are. How I typically do it with teams or individuals is I tell them, guys, where are you? And they create a chart. I'm sorry, I'm doing it in the air. Okay, so here I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm over here. But they create a diagram. This is the idea. And then I ask a second question, different person. Okay, where you want to be? And you may find out that in coaching, I want to be here while I'm here. There's a gap, competency gap. Interesting conversation. What you can, what I can do to help myself feel in the gap. I can find out that, for instance, in the area of mentoring, I'm good. Well, I assessed myself on the same level where I am, and so on and so on. So this is how I in practice do it. I'm not sure what was behind the idea of the authors of the mural board, because typically when we draw a spider web diagram, the highest level is far away from the middle of the diagram. So I'd say we start from 0, we're going to 5. As you can see, this has reverted over here, but you shouldn't have any problem reverting it again. Actually, when I look together with Tony, when we look together on this chart of the community of behind the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel, you would see it's reverted, or not reverted, it's correct, from 0 to 5 at the edge of the wheel. So this is how I see it could be done on an individual level. So you do it for your own with individuals. So I'm helping grow a person, or maybe as a manager of multiple agile roles, we can have a workshop together using this mural board, or a mural board or any other tool that you would create on your own. And as you can see, this one is prepared for 12 people in a team. Here on the sides, you see details from the PDF about each of the competency areas, step by step, what is required, what is explained. So very powerful and available for free, which is awesome approach for you. Tony, any other way how you would use it with people?
There's a second step that I would offer or invite, because you talked about if you had an agile coaching area, or you were managing a group of agile coaches, you demonstrate that gap. So you've identified, I'm here and I'd like to be here, and there's a gap. And often the question then is, well, how do I fill the gap? An exercise I will credit to Lisa Adkins, because she ran it at a meetup, and she got 2 big pictures of the X-Wing. So you could do this with a coaching wheel. One of them was what I'm selling, and one of them was what I'm buying. And all we did in the exercise was, if we were offering anything on one of those competencies, we'd post up what we're offering with our details, our contact details. And if we were looking to buy something, I need to know more about coaching, or I need some facilitation skills, or I need this specific thing, you put up buying. And by the end of this meetup, a load of people had paired up, and they were going to work together to bridge a gap in someone's competency model. So you could have, as you say, 12 of those pictures and 12 people in a team filling them all in, then 2 big ones, buying and selling, and they could then match up their gaps with what's on offer. So that's one way I've seen. It was the X-Wing at the time. I confess I've not done it with the coaching wheel, but I could see you doing exactly the same with the coaching wheel and getting even more richer results. And if you scroll down some of these community members, like Mark's, for instance, it will show you at the bottom, he's done a similar thing. He said, this is my market of skills. So all I've described to you is a big collective way of doing market of skills, and saying, well, what have you got to offer me that can help me bridge my gap? And what can I offer you that bridge your gap? So it would be a 2-phase if you're going to run the exercise, but it might be a neat way of helping people make that next step and support it.
And I think it's a very nice alternative also for a very popular, a little bit old-fashioned competency matrix that teams fill in. These are desired competences, this is the level we have. And let's see as a team who is strong where, so that we know who I should reach out to. A good one, run by many teams, but this one is a very smooth alternative, especially if we talk about agile competencies as defined in this framework. All right, I think it's about time for questions. If you have any question, you're still with us, you can ask the question by typing it in the comments field. While we are waiting for your questions, a few announcements. The next month, the next Agile Encounter, and again, I will host a guest, a topic that is not a topic that I invented. Actually, the guest came with the topic, is what is an enterprise agile coach? do they exist at all or not? And I thought we will build the conversation next month, partially on the wheel over here, because I think the enterprise agile coach, whatever it means, definitely is somewhere there. So so if you liked the wheel, the framework presented by us today, definitely you will hear the echoes of it the next month during next webinar. Moreover, we have just published a very big case study on our website if you're interested in agile transformation that some time ago we successfully completed with a customer of ours in the industry, insurance industry. You can look it up on our website. You can use the QR code available over here. A lot of text, but I think very important if you want to go into details. Sometimes the nuances, the details, are the most important part of the transformation. You wouldn't see it from a one pager. Mainly the entire journey from the problem statement to solutions. These that worked and these solutions that didn't work is all listed over here. Now I'm looking at the chat window, but no questions appeared. In that case, let me please show on the slide final two links. Useful resources. We together visited the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel.org website. If you are interested in the canonical original model and the Agile Coach competency framework, the X-Wing model, there's a very nice, literally one-pager website also available, worth looking at and reading it. I think it's very important to not to focus on one model. Models are always sort of simplification of the reality, but also see the history, especially that this one is good. Tony, any final thoughts or pieces of advice for those who perhaps liked the wheel and would like to use it somehow tomorrow?
It was, well, I'd encourage you to just give it a go. But in the comments, I noticed that AJ has asked, well, he thanked for the webinar. Thank you, AJ. And he said, will you be sharing the slides? So I know that Natalia has responded that this will be posted in a YouTube channel, so you'll be able to get the slides that way. But I was going to ask, Paweł, did the slides get shared in any other form?
I think, yes, it's not only the webinar published, but also the materials and even a tiny article based on what we are talking. Please give us some time because we need some time to post processes, but definitely it will be available either via our YouTube channel or directly on our website in the knowledge base.
There you go, AJ. You got your answer. Okay. Well, there's nothing else from me, but thanks for inviting me along today, Paweł. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you very much. My pleasure as always. See you next time, Tony, and everybody. See you next month when we're going to explore the topic of the enterprise agile coaching. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks. Goodbye, Paweł.